So, okay, yeah, thank God it's up now. Okay. Okay, yeah. So WDS. So if I want to install WDS in an environment, or you as a system admin, if you want to install WDS in an environment, again, it's not something that people typically like use that much in an environment. But the thing
Okay.
is, for the exams, we need to know it because Microsoft is gonna they're gonna ask questions about it in 7411, and we need to be able to answer the questions that they're gonna be asking us.
So
So,
in professional environment, you guys don't use WDS, right? Not
um,
normally.
not normally. Or what do you think? What's your thought about that, William? You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, it really depends. It's medium-sized businesses. It's a good solution. I've seen it out there,
Yeah.
and um, it makes pushing out Windows OS a little easier, especially the client side.
Yeah.
But seeing a lot more integration with SCCM.
Yeah.
SCCM is pretty much taking over as far as WDS, WSUS,
Yeah.
um, some monitoring, but WSUS and actually any application pushing and updates and stuff,
Yeah.
and WDS is really being taken over by SCCM.
Yeah. So here's the other thing, though. The other thing is, so um, it's a good solution, but there's something more powerful. So it's a good solution, especially when it comes to cost. Because if you think about it, like William said, if you're like a small to medium-sized company, yeah, and you're really concerned about your costs, if you want to go for something like SCCM, there's a lot of money involved in deploying SCCM. You have to pay for management licenses. You have to pay for all kinds of licenses. You have to pay for for licenses for
But
all the devices that you'll be managing.
what is so special about ACCM like that you can't get in WDS? Like, give me one quick
Lots of
example.
things, lots of things. For example, WDS, you can deploy operating systems. So WDS, you can do something. So there are two types of, well, not two, three main types in the whole MCSE course that Microsoft discussed. So they discuss something called every touch installation. They discuss something called light touch installation, and then they discuss something called zero touch installation. So every touch installation, light touch installation, zero touch installation, every touch installation meaning a type of installation that you have to actively select the options that you want. You have to be involved in the
More human
deployment process.
intervention required.
Exactly. Human interaction. There's a lot of human interaction involved. Light touch means there is like a level of human interaction involved, but not that much. Yeah, you may be expected to select the language of OS you want to install, which is one of the things that WDS provides. You select the language of the OS you want to install, maybe you select the country or something like that, and then it goes ahead and does the installation. And then there's zero touch where you actually don't have to you actually don't have to touch anything at all. You can start the computer remotely and go through the whole installation without human intervention on the client side.
Okay.
Yeah. So zero touch. So what do you think, William? Do you think we can do zero touch with WDS? Again, you can unmute yourself. The reason is that we mute.
If you set up Wake on LAN,
Yeah.
you're still not going to be zero touch because you still have to turn the machine on.
Yeah.
You'll have to configure the machine initially, but it's not really as much of a push solution.
Yeah. Because with WDS we can still use unattended files. Oh, so sorry, the unattended files.
Answer files, right?
Yeah. So we can still use that. So it can be really a really light touch that it doesn't have to take that much. Yeah, what Microsoft said in the book, what they said in the official 7411 manual is for you to be able to do zero touch with WDS, you need the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit. MDT, and I think they have a 2013 version out now, which you can use to prepare the image, prepare your answer files, and other stuff like that. So, so you can do zero touch installation, but it relies heavily on other technologies to accomplish that. The other thing you can't do with WDS is you can't manage your client. You can do something like asset management, like manage your client, or something like license management. What sort of licenses are installed on the client? Or you can do something like even deploying applications. So you can deploy the operating system, but you can't deploy like the applications. Like let's say you have like one special application that you use in your infrastructure that you want to deploy massively to computers within your infrastructure. You can't use WDS for that. So you can use SCCM for that to push out installation. So what do you think, William? Like what other advantages does SCCM have over WDS?
Well, most of my experience is 2007. I haven't played with 2012 yet, but
Yeah,
with SCCM, you can, as you mentioned, asset management, so you can actually run reports on all of your workstation servers.
yeah,
I've used it in pushing third-party applications,
yeah,
pushing all your Java and all of your other security updates,
yeah,
your browser updates. They can all be managed and pushed through SCCM.
yeah,
So, and plus you can integrate and schedule and really define your Windows updates.
yeah. Yeah, and then it makes it easy because then you can do everyday things like task sequences, which makes your operating system deployment even easier. And then you can manage your drivers much better than you can with WDS. So it's just really that much more powerful, and it does way much more than WDS does. So just consider WDS as if you work in a excuse me, if you work in a company that you're like, for example, um, I told you like one of the things that I'll be working on in London and all that is for a company which is like more of like a small, medium-sized company. So I'm not gonna go there and recommend SCCM for them. SCCM is really expensive. You get the point, though?
Yeah, I'm getting the
Yeah,
point. What you're saying about this asset management and then third-party things and doing the updates and stuff. When I was reading about this WDS thing, I read something about this imaging thing, and
yeah,
then there are like two kind of thing where like is you make an image
yeah,
of the disk, which is like disk based, and then there's a file image, it's like an ISOs.
yeah,
So I think I saw somewhere where he was adding extra application in it while he was making a set of file,
yeah. So the
and
extra
then he
application,
installed it.
yeah. So the extra application, let's say, let's go to like my understanding of it. Then William can give his own thought about this also. So my understanding of this is you want to do WDS. WDS works in a process. So you have your image, right? You have your image that you want to deploy. So
Yes.
that image, what you can do is you install it on the computer, right? You can install it on the computer. Then after you install it on the computer, install the other applications that you want, yeah. You can also install something like the drivers that you want. And then after you do that, what you can do is you can um, sysprep, what they call sysprep. You can sysprep that computer or that installation. So which
Okay.
means you take away any specific information and things like the security identifier, you take that away. Yeah, you take things like the computer name away, the network configuration, you take all those specific informations away. So, and then you can capture that image and then deploy it to multiple computers. So when you deploy it to multiple computers, all the applications that were installed on that computer is part of the image that you've captured, right?
Yes.
But what SCCM can do is you basically have your So you basically have a fold like different. Let's make it simple. Like you have let's call them folders. You have different folders. So maybe one folder will be the driver folder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe another folder will be the application folder. Yeah. And then maybe another folder will be the OS folder. So you can now set up something called task sequences. So task sequences will be like, okay, if you want to deploy um, an OS to this computer, so this time around you're not deploying everything to a computer then capturing everything again. What you're basically doing is you're saying, I have all these things organized in an application, and then you're telling the computer, first of all, install the OS. Then after installing the OS, go into the application folder, and I want you to install Java, install SAP, install something else, install Office. So you've not installed them before and then capturing the image. So this is all part of the deployment. So you're saying install Office. Then after you finish that, I want you to go into the driver folder and install driver A, install driver B, install driver K, install driver W. You get the point. So
Yes.
it's just the features are just so much, the functionalities are so much that it's just not like you're installing everything first of all, then sysprepping everything, then capturing the image to deploy. This one you can actually just organize everything that you want. So in other words, if there's a new update, you don't have to install it on the computer and then try to capture it again. You can just add it inside the update folder.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just add um, another line in the task sequence that says install this update also.
This SCCM is part of the MCSC, right? Like that's the
Not
advanced thing
really,
that you
no,
were talking about.
not really. So when we get to 7413, we'll talk about it a bit.
Okay.
But there's another course that Microsoft has for SCCM. So, but we'll only talk about it a bit. So, and William, what's your own opinion of that? What's your own thought about that? Like,
I haven't seen it in 4, 10, 11, or 12 documentation really.
yeah,
Um, I haven't looked at 13 and 14 yet, but yeah, it's its own beast.
yeah,
There's quite a bit. There's quite a few job opportunities out here for SECM administrators.
yeah,
So just like you'd have an exchange administrator, they're actively seeking people that can manage that as a full time job.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, and that's absolutely true. So yeah, but here's the thing. Here's the good thing. The good thing is, well, Microsoft has included this. Many people have a problem because they're like, yeah, it's not wildly deployed. But I don't have a problem with that because the concept that we learn in WDS still carries over into SCCM. Because once you can learn the concept and understand the concept of automated um, operating system deployment, you understand the concept of automated application deployment or automated client management. So once you get the foundation of that, it carries over into other technologies that you'll be using. So I have no problem with Microsoft including this in 7411 for us to deploy. Okay, so let's move a step further. So for us to install WDS, I've got a question here. Can we install WDS on Windows Server Core? What do you think,
Uh, I
Zoe?
don't know.
What
I
about
don't know.
William? What do you think? Can we install WDS
Yes,
on Server Core?
I
You
believe you
sure
can.
on Server Core? Well, actually, the documentation I was reading from Microsoft says we can't. So actually, let's try to bring that out. Let's go. I hope this works properly. Yeah, sorry, just trying to play with trying to play with the so we can so it's actually one of the applications that we cannot install on server core. So install WDS server core. Mm, Let's reset to default. Yeah, so you say this one. It says you cannot use WDS with the server core installation option. So,
Okay.
so it's one of the roles. I think there's like a couple of roles. Um, I'm not sure, maybe about five of them or eight of them, something like that, that we can't
So
install.
what's the reasoning WDS cannot be in core?
Like I'm not sure if I think about it. Like, let's see. Oh, okay, I know the reason. Because I think WDS relies a lot on is it the
More GUI, I think.
Microsoft.NET relies a
Yeah,
lot
but you can have .NET in core.
in core. Which version can we have? Let's see. Microsoft.NET server core. Yeah, I think we can have .NET in core. So there's a particular, let's see, because WDS prerequisite, Microsoft said it requires DNS, it requires DHCP,
Active Directory.
yeah, it requires AD if you're installing Active Directory integrated. What else does it require?
NTFS file system.
Yeah, NTFS file system.
I
So
think these
could
are the
it,
four main core requirements.
do you think it could be because of the NTFS file requirement? It couldn't be because of that, could it? No,
Nope. Now
because
all of those features can
can be
run in
done.
core.
Yeah. So it's a really
I
interesting
think it's
question.
more GUI based, probably one of the.
Can be installed on server core. So why? It's a good. um, so let's see. Microsoft Core. Anything to say about it? Uh, Core. Mm, yeah, but that's not saying why. It's not really saying why. Yeah. So I think that's like a good question, a good research question that we'll need to research on, to find out like why. But yeah, so I just read because I was going through the documentation and it just says yeah, you can't install WDS on server core. Now it's a good question. Say why can't we install it? So I'm sure that there must be a particular dependency that it needs that's not available on core. So I guess there must be something. Okay, so let's move on a bit. So it says the
Wait,
yeah.
do
Sorry,
you?
carry on.
I'm sorry. I'm
No,
trying to
carry on,
find
carry
where
on.
you saw that it cannot be in core again.
Yeah, so this one, so if you go to the main WDS page on Microsoft's website, you
Oh, I
can,
found it here.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
You cannot use pointers.
yeah.
Yeah, that's very descriptive there.
Hmm. We we also saw that in 7014. I'm not sure if Zoe was around for the hangout when we were discussing server core, that there's like about maybe 5 or 8 roles that we cannot install on server core. So Windows Server 2012 supports many roles, but there's about maybe about 5 of them or something like that that we can't install on server core and something like that. Yeah. Okay. So it says the prerequisite for WDS says we need DNS, we need DHCP, we need AD, we need NTFS. So here's my question that I want to ask. Can anybody explain the entire WDS process? So if I plug my computer into the network, what's the process? What's the whole process that will happen from I start up my computer till my computer actually has an operating system installed on it? So do you want to attempt that?
You want me to answer that or?
Yeah, yeah. Do you want to attempt it? So do you know the whole process of WDS? So what's the whole process? So I have my computer. So if I let's bring up pin. So I have my computer on the network. Or let's even make it much more. Let's put some graphics. Images. Yeah. So this one looks good. So image. So I have my computer on my network. Yep. And I have my server. The reason why I do this is because it makes it easier when we see images for us as humans anyway. So let's say I have my server somewhere. So I have my server. Uh-oh. This is a massive server. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Oh, still massive. Still massive. Yeah, it's going down. And there we go. Now it's really big, right? It's really massive. Uh-oh. That tiny image that we saw is really that huge. Okay, there we go. So we have our servers on our network and when we have a client computer. So what will usually happen is, okay, let's say I have my server here. This is my DHCP server. This is my WDS server. So this one's got DHCP maybe with AD installed on it. This one's got WDS installed on it. And then of course I have my switch, maybe my Cisco switch or something. So I have my everything completed now. Computer, server, switch. Yeah, there we go. Good one. Just need to cut it a bit. Okay, so they are all connected together on this network. So this computer is connected to this one is connected to this one is connected to this one. So does anyone want to illustrate what the whole process that happens when I boot up this computer till this computer fully has Windows installed on it? So what exactly goes on behind the scenes?
Well, your workstation does a network boot request. When it does that, it sends out a DHCP
Yeah.
request.
So let's start with that. So number one, it says it's going to do a DHCP request. And when it does a DHCP request, what does it request for?
IP
Request
address.
for an IP.
For an IP, okay? So it requests for an IP. Is there any other thing that it requests for apart from an IP?
I'm sorry?
Is there any other thing that it requests for apart from an IP?
Well, it's going to request DNS information. Well,
Yeah.
that would be in the DHCP request.
Yeah.
Is it going to request the WDS? Well, it's not going to know how to. I guess that's my question. It's been a long time since I've used WDS.
Yep.
When you do a network boot, it's going to get an IP, and then it's actually going to look for an actual server to answer the boot.
Yeah.
It's an image server basically.
Yeah.
So it's going to ask for that.
Yeah.
So you'll get a response back of any available boot servers,
Yeah.
which WDS would show up as one. You can select the WDS server, Once you select the WDS server, it'll load up and give you the options of images you can select from. You select the image. A lot of times you have to use your administrative login. You set the login, and then the image gets applied to the workstation.
So actually, let's find out. So before we can find out, let's do two things. So we have two servers here. We have a domain controller. So this domain controller is exactly what we just described. So it's got DHCP and it's got HADE on it. And we have another server here called server one. So this is just, I think the only thing it's got on it is IIS. It's got nothing else on it. So what we'll do is let's actually go through like the whole process and see what actually goes on. So um, first thing we'll do is we'll have to install WDS on this server. So does anyone want to go for it? But now we don't want to use the GUI. We want to use partial because we'll get lots of partial questions in the exams. So we're going to get lots of partial questions. So as much as possible, one of the things we that we will, especially with Microsoft exams these days, is that it's advisable to do the labs in the GUI, but then we have to go back and do them in partial because we're going to get lots of questions with partial. So this server now, I want to install WDS on it. So we've already met the requirement. So this server, this environment here, it's our HADE server, it's our DHCP server, and it's also got DNS on it. So it also got DNS on it. So it fulfilled all the requirements. And this one is a WDS server, and it also got an NTFS um, volume that we can store our images. So if we want to install WDS by partial, so does someone want to take over the mouse and do that? Let me make this bigger so that it won't be difficult. Yeah, okay. You want to give it a go, William? You want to try that? Install WDS in partial. So you can take over the mouse. I think if you move the mouse, you should respond and move. Yeah. So the computer name is Lon Server One. So Lon hyphen SVR1. So that's Lon hyphen SVR1. So what you can see at the top there. So you got Lon.
Hold on, I can't see. Oh, there it is. I see
Yeah.
it.
So just Lon hyphen SVR1. There's a hell in front.
Oh, yeah, I missed it.
Right. Yeah. 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 Sorry. Yeah. Can move that.
It's okay. It's not wrapping on me.
Yeah. So we need to let me try to edit this. Um, properties. So let's go to okay, so it's gonna go for yeah, okay, this one. So let's go to width. Um, let's reduce this one to 102 also. Yeah, okay, that's better. So you can carry on. Okay, good question. Include all sub features. So so include all sub features. What are the sub features of WDS?
I think it's transmission.
Yeah, you're actually close. I get what you want to say. You meant transport, right? transport server.
Yes, transport server
Yeah,
and deployment server.
deployment server. So what does transport server do? What does deployment server do?
Transport server, I think as the name suggests, it deals with your transportation using the TFTP, Chiral FTP protocol. Uh, am I correct?
You're really close. You got the concept of it deals with your transmission. That's absolutely correct. It deals with your transmission.
It deals with two kind of modes, which is multicast and unicast.
Very good one. So it deals
Uh,
with your with your transmission in terms of multicast, unicast.
and the difference between these two is unicast is basically very unbandwidth friendly, but multicast is more bandwidth friendly.
Yeah.
Do you want me to more further explain it, or
Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead. Yeah.
let's say you got five computers and you ask me to do the unicast.
Yeah.
So I've got 1 GB file.
Yeah.
So what I will do is I will give 1 GB file to everybody on
Yeah.
a small bandwidth if I've got small bandwidth. So 5 GB is going over on the bandwidth, so it's too inefficient.
Yeah.
Whereas on the multicast,
Mm,
what if you ask me to do the same thing, I will send 1 GB file to one machine,
yeah.
and then it will be transferred to the other machine. So it's more efficient. So in the end, I'm just transferring 1 GB
Yeah.
to the other machine, like one to all five machines, but they are sharing the data in between themselves.
Yeah.
Like machine two will be able to get the rest of the data from machine one once it's done completed. I'm kind of not very clear on this multicast. Like practically, I've seen it, but I'm not very confident in terms of how this works out, basically.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a very, very good question. So actually, you're absolutely accurate in your explanation. So what do you think, Williams, like in terms of um so if I want to use like multicast, if I want to use WDS to use the multicast feature that Zoe mentioned, is there anything that needs to be available? Is there any prerequisite for me to be able to use it?
I'm sorry, to use multicast is a what?
Yeah, for WDS transmissions to transmit the images. So is there any prerequisite that needs to be available on the network?
I don't know. I haven't set up multicast with it.
Yeah. Okay. So it is true. So what Zoe mentioned is that you can use if you want to deploy images. So let's say we have in this situation, let's say we have not only one computer, we have two computers. So well, reduce this bit. So we have two computers instead of one. So let's say we want to install Windows 8.1 on these two computers. There are two ways we can do it. We can either have um, we can either have the image being transferred from the WDS server straight to this computer, and then the image being transferred from WDS server straight to this computer. So that's two transmissions. So this guy is like, I have my own communication stream with WDS server. This other guy is like, yeah, I have my own communication stream with WDS server. The thing with that is now, let's say this port is 1 gig, this port is 1 gig, this port is 1 gig. Now we have, let's say the file is like about 3 gig, which is like the Windows 2012 image size. We have not only just 3 gig of data that we're trying to cover over, that we're trying to copy over this 1 gig link here, but we're copying it twice. So we have 6 gig of data that we're trying to copy over this 1 gig link here. Now, if we multiply that, and then we have like about 100 computers in our environment. So each of them have their own stream with the WDS server. So that is like the unicast communication. But in the case of we using like, we can set up like mode, we can say, we've configured WDS, and we can say to WDS, okay, whenever you want to transmit images, don't transmit with unicast. Yeah, we can go to WDS and tell it what to do and say to WDS, well, we want you to transmit your images using multicast transmission. So what WDS will do is it will have an address. It will send it to this router here. Yeah, let's say this is a router. It will send it to this one. So when it sends it to this one, this computer here will be listening to the address that this guy sent it to. So it's basically the router takes the packet that this one's got. The router takes the packet and is like listening that, okay, who wants this transmission? I'll distribute it to you. So this guy is only sending one packet to this one. When the router gets it, the router is like, I've got this packet, who wants it? So this guy's like, I want it. So it will just transfer one to this one. This one is like,
You're
I want
talking
it.
about, sorry to interrupt you, you're talking
No.
about router or a switch.
So it could be switch also. So it depends. So what the main thing that matters is this. The router or the switch that you must be using must support multicast.
Okay, now
Yeah.
I'm getting it.
So because not all routers or switches support multicast.
Okay, yeah, this is what the missing point was because that was my point is like if I hand over something to you
Yeah.
and I ask you to give it to William and XYZ other people, then it's you who is dealing with it. So that you are the missing problem, which was like I was missing in the middle. I was
Yeah.
unable to get this concept.
Yeah. So that's the
Now
point.
it's
So the router must support multicast, but it's not only must support multicast. Here's where you can get the router must also support, or the switch or whatever must also support IGMP, the Internet Group Management Protocol.
okay.
Let's go bring up IGMP. Yeah. And then let's bring it up again. IGMP. Oh, yeah. Okay. Is the process of listening to Internet Group Management Protocol network traffic. This feature allows a network switch to listen in on the IGMP conversation between hosts and routers. By listening to this conversation, the switch maintains a map of which links need the IP multicast streams. Multicast may be filtered from the links which do not need them and thus controls which port receives specific multicast traffic. So to put it in a simpler way, IGMP makes multicast work the way it should work. So with IGMP, what will happen is without IGMP, one stream will flow from this WDS to the switch. And then when it gets to the switch, it will send it out to every single device on that network without IGMP.
Okay.
So basically, multicast is now working like a broadcast.
Yeah, it's a broadcast then. It's
Yeah.
a broadcast, yeah.
So, but with IGMP, it doesn't work like a broadcast. With IGMP, it has a way of finding out which exact device need or require this communication or this packet. And that way it will only send it to the devices or to the ports that are asking for that communication. So that feature is what IGMP provides. So let's
So
go.
it will take the decision basically.
Sorry, what did you say?
It will take the decision basically
Yeah,
to give that packet to which device, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So those are the two main things. So actually, like, let's go. Uh, what did yeah, I've forgotten like which Microsoft here, but it's on a TechNet article somewhere. So those are the two prerequisites. So the router or the switch must support multicast, and then it must support IGMP. It can work if it doesn't support IGMP. If it supports multicast, it will still work. But then what will happen is that it will function like a broadcast because
Broadcaster, yeah.
one stream will go from this one. So it won't send multiple stream. It will still send one stream down to the router or the switch here. But then when it gets here, this one is like, I have no way of knowing which device really needs this communication because the way I can know is through this protocol called IGMP. So what I'm
Okay.
gonna do is I'm just gonna send it to everybody on the network.
Okay, my one last confusion is about it. One last question,
Yeah,
which I'm confused about. Let's say you send 1 GB file to this router
yeah,
or whatever switch.
yeah,
Uh, PC computer A gets 700 MB,
yeah,
computer B gets 300 MB. Now computer B needs another 400 MB to be able to equal to computer A, which is having 700 MB. You send another file from the server. So how does this thing is going to determine that computer B needs those extra bits, or like I mean how it is going to work out?
yeah.
Uh,
Because like it's still the whole communication is still TCP based. It's still connection oriented based. So
okay, so
it's still
TCP you can check
yeah,
which how
yeah,
much it
exactly.
is.
Which one has been received or not? And then the other thing that Microsoft mentioned about when going to documentation about this one is that what Microsoft mentioned is that um, multicast transmission is as slow as its slowest link. So in other words, the whole communication, what determines like the speed is the slowest link. So
Okay.
what will happen is that um, this guy, let's say this guy is basically receiving the communication really, really quickly, like you said, and this guy is like, well, there's something going on this link here, so I'm dragging it down really slowly. I'm dragging it down really slowly. What will happen is that this would drag down the communication that WDS is sending to this network device. It will drag down that communication to the speed of this one.
Okay.
So the way around that, according to Microsoft, is we have to go into WDS, look for active transmission, and actually disable this transmission. So when we disable the transmission, then it can go faster. So we have to look for the slowest one and then disable that transmission. So it's actually like a concept called WDS multicast master. Yeah, yeah, I think it's called master client. So that's what it's called. So the slowest one will become the master client, basically. Um, yeah, it's all on the TechNet article that's on that page. So if we go Control F, master, yeah, yeah. Sometimes, so let's increase this one a bit so to make it larger. It says sometimes a single faulty machine can cause large multicast to run slowly. This machine will have a slow connection and will become the master client, thus reducing the download for everyone else in its session. You can identify the master client by running this command. So you can use this command to identify. So the slowest link will become the master client. So then you detect that, oh, there's a particular, I mean, this thing is going really slowly, and it's not because everything is slow, it's because there's a problem with a computer that's causing it to be slow. And that computer will basically become the master client. So what you can do is you can terminate, you can disconnect this master client. So it says the code will return information on each of the clients. Search for an attribute called master client where the value is set to yes. This is the machine that is causing the session to be slow. Note the client ID value for this machine. This value is what you will use to identify the machine. You can disconnect this machine in the console or by running this command. So
So
yeah,
is that going to show you in the interface, WDS server interface, that these are two clients and client B is the slowest
yeah,
disconnected?
it will. So the slowest one will be the master client.
Okay.
Yeah. So it says the role of master client will switch to the next slowest machine. So you see, so it's basically listening to everything and it's like which one is the slowest? If you're the slowest, I will transmit at your speed.
Okay.
Yeah. What's your thought about that, William? What do you think? Or what's your thought about the old master client old stuff? Ah, I think you're muted. I think you cannot mute again. Hello. I don't think William is there anymore.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So you get the 0.0, right? You get the 0.0.
Yes,
Yeah. So
yes.
you
But only
go.
my only question is like
Yeah.
if client B is slowest
Yeah.
and you disconnect him, then what's the point of doing this
So
WDS?
no, if you disconnect him, so but remember that when you're doing WDS, you won't typically be doing it over two machines. Even though you can see benefit by doing it over two machines and stuff like that, it basically the main reason for this type of deployment is for something called high volume deployment. Yeah. So high volume
Okay.
deployment. So high volume deployment meaning you have lots of machines. You have about 50 machines to install Windows on. And you're like, oh, where do I start from? Yeah.
Okay.
So now you're broadcasting Windows image to 50 machines, and then you realize, okay, one of them is really slowing the transmission down. So you can disconnect that one, but you can still build the remaining 49.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, you get what I mean.
All
Okay,
right.
so let's
We can do this in Hyper-V, right? I've seen people doing this in Hyper-V and VMware, this lab.
yeah,
Uh,
actually we'll do it now. So that's what we do. So William has assisted to install um to install Windows. So now we've installed WDS. So what's the next thing that we have to do after installing it?
uh, I think we have to, I don't know about the command way, but you need to do some resetting things and then you have to do tell it to where to find the boot image and where to find the installation Vim files. You put them somewhere, define it, and these sort of things, I think.
Yeah. So now we've installed them. The next thing we have to do is to configure the server. So now we've installed the server, but it's not yet configured. So to configure
Okay.
it is another story. So to configure it, so go ahead and try to configure it though. So we want to configure this server as a WDS server. So
So
if you
you
go,
want me to the
yeah,
command line way or?
go ahead with the GUI. Go with the GUI if you want.
Uh,
So how do we, so now we have WDS installed. Now we want to configure it. How do we
uh,
configure it?
yeah, let me open. I think it comes in the tools, Windows deployment service,
Yep, good one. So Windows deployment service.
and then we go to server,
Yep,
select our server.
yep. And then
It
you,
means it's not configured. The server is not configured. Right click. Okay, we need to configure it.
yeah. So
Right,
it
we're
tells,
gonna right
yeah.
click it, configure
So
server,
it tells us exactly what to do. It's like, yeah, if you want to configure,
and
just
then
right click
next,
and configure. So actually, let's
in,
go back. If you go back, so let's go back. Let's read that instructions. It says you can use this wizard to configure WDS. It says once this server is configured, you will need to add at least one boot image and one install image to the server. So that's another
yeah,
concept for us to discuss. So let's discuss that.
yeah,
So it's mentioned two things. It's mentioned concept of boot image and it's mentioned another concept called install image. So
yes.
so what's this concept? What's the difference between the two? What's the purpose of these two?
I think the purpose of these two images is the thing is boot image is what the name says is used to boot up the machine and do the install like put in the Windows pre-installation environment.
Hmm.
And install image is obviously different for every operating system. So you can install the good part is that you can install any operating system like Win XP, Win 7, Vista, whatever. So that you can put any install image in there.
But what's the whole purpose? Why do we need two images? Why not just have one image, one install image?
I think that was also I was thinking about it when I read about this thing and I was seeing it.
Hmm?
But I think the only boot image is basically a centralized way. Like it gives you a pre-installation, pre-boot environment to boot up your system, and it's important for your network boot ups and stuff because that's the first image it comes forward to look at.
Yeah, but why do
Uh,
we even need the
but
first image?
why
Why
I
can't we
don't
just
have
go
the
ahead and just put the whole, is William still there? William. Okay, I think William is gone for now. Okay, so here's the point. So you said boot image, install image.
Yes.
If we look, so if I go back to this, let's go back to our Hyper-V machine, launch server one. Let's add our Windows to the DVD. Okay, browse. Um, C program file, Microsoft Learning 411. Yep. Okay. So let's apply that, and then let's go. Okay. Okay. So now we have this. So um, where can I find the boot image and the install image inside this
Uh,
DVD?
Let me just check.
Go ahead. Go ahead,
Uh,
please.
it's in the sources.
Yeah.
There are
Which
like
one?
two WMI
Yeah.
files.
Good.
Uh,
So boot.wim. You passed it already. Good one. Very, very good. WIM. Yeah, good one.
yeah, these are the two ones.
So you have boot. Now look at the size of boot.
Yes, it's
192
192
MB.
MB.
Look at the size of install. 2.92
Okay.
GB. So
Okay, so one reason I think it could
yeah,
be make it faster
yeah,
and bandwidth efficient.
because think about it like before, because WDS has existed for a long time, right? So
Yes.
nowadays we have laptops and systems that have 8 gig, but WDS used to exist as Remote Installation Service (RIS) in older versions of Windows. So
Yeah.
then, if your computer has 2 gig of RAM, that's a really big powerful computer, you
Yes.
know? So computers don't typically have like large RAMs and all that in those days. So what
Yeah.
they've done is that okay, rather than because when you do a Pixie boot, so
Yes.
you switch your computer on, your computer does a Pixie boot. So
Yes.
it downloads an image from the network. It's
Yeah.
downloading that image directly into its memory. So it's not downloading it into the hard drive, it's downloading it into the memory. It's running it
Okay.
from the memory. So if it has to
Yes.
download 3 gig over the network and then download it and run it directly from its memory,
Yes, I
it's
got it.
going to take a while. The number two, you have to have a lot of memory on your
Yes.
computer for you to be able to
Yes.
load. So it's not as if you can't load install image, but the thing is that it's like a hold thing.
And I think that is why they always recommend you the basic settings for installing any operating system. Like you need to have 512 MB RAM at least minimum
Yeah,
for Windows 2K to install 2012 install it. So I mean that makes more sense now that if you have at least 512
yeah,
minimum, so that 192 MB boot file can fit into it.
yeah, yeah. So then what will now happen is that after it loads, so it loads the boot image into the RAM. So after it loads it into the RAM, the next thing that it does, the next thing that it's gonna do is it will now establish a session with the WDS server, and it will now transfer the install image to its hard drive. So you see that those are two different things. So it loads the boot image directly into it from its RAM. So it loads it directly into the RAM and uses that to
Yeah,
start the computer. So when it
yeah.
uses that to start the computer, it uses that to establish a session with WDS. So after it does that, then it now transfers all the install image, the whole 3 gig of files from WDS directly to his hard drive.
So you're trying to say that boot image is having that all the information about the WDS, or I think the WDS information is already there, right? When the Pixie boot
So
is.
so that's another thing that we'll go through. So once it downloads, so actually let's go through it like when we start the installation. So what happens is that when your computer gets online, the first thing that it's going to do is, remember I asked about the process before. The first thing your
Yeah,
computer will do is that it will send a DHCP broadcast.
request. Yeah.
Now, when it sends the DHCP broadcast, which of these computers will receive it on this network?
Uh,
All of them. Every
yeah,
one of them will. So this one will receive
yeah.
it. This one will be like, yeah, I'm not a DHCP server.
But I'm not DHCP server, so
Yeah,
yeah.
drop
Okay.
it. So this one will receive it. This one will be like, yeah, I'm a DHCP server, right? This one
Yeah.
will receive it. This one. So here's the thing: is that what port does DHCP operate on? DHCP operates on
I think 60. Listen on port 60.
it's 67.
67.
So it listens on port 67 UDP. So UDP 67. So the thing is, DHCP is listening on UDP 67. WDS is also listening on UDP 67.
Yeah.
So both of them are listening on UDP 67. So what happens is that this computer sends a boot up, it sends a DHCP podcast and says, this one gets it. When this one
Yeah.
gets it, this one is configured with an IP address scope, right?
Yeah.
So this one will reply with an IP address and say, this is an IP address for you. When
Yeah.
this one gets a DHCP request also, it will also respond because it's also listening on port 67.
Yes.
But what it will respond with, it will respond and say, I am the server that has the boot image that you can boot from.
It's me. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's basically,
It will tell
so
about its story.
yeah, so basically what you see is you see a DHCP offer from this one. Remember the DHCP process,
Yeah.
discover, offer, request, acknowledge. So this one will send an offer. So this one will go, here's my offer. I'm offering you an IP x.x.x.x. That's the IP
Yeah.
I'm offering you. Whereas when this one will reply, you know what this one will say? This one will say, I'm also going to give you an offer. Yeah, I'll offer you IP equals to nothing. So when
Okay.
you actually look into the packet, you will see that it says, I'm offering you, but it will say IP nothing. But then it's going to say, the other thing I can offer you is I can offer you option 60, which is basically saying I'm the WDS server. In other words, what it's saying is I have a boot image that you can boot from. And then it also replies with option 67 and say, this is the place that you want to boot from. You get the point?
Yeah.
So actually WDS also uses DHCP for its initial communication.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
But is that going to make sense? Whatever WDS is saying to that machine, unless he doesn't like that machine doesn't have any
it does.
IP address.
It does because once it receives it, so
Yeah.
because here's the thing is that they are all on the same network, right? So actually IP doesn't really matter once they are on the same network. What matters is the MAC address mainly.
Okay.
Yeah, if they're on
Okay.
the same network. So it's going to make sense when this one receives it, just like, oh, okay. So once it gets the IP from this one, it doesn't need to communicate with this one anymore. It gets from this one, and this one says, I have a boot image that you can boot from. This is the location that you want to boot from. It just goes and uses its IP and its MAC address to communicate with this one and say, that boot image that you have, I need it, please. And then that's
Okay.
when TFTP starts.
So isn't that going to be a conflict when both of these servers are listening to a same port like 67 UDP and UDP WDS also?
It's only going to be a conflict if you've installed DHCP on your WDS server.
Okay.
So
Like the
that's why,
WDS is installed first, it has something to do with the order, you mean, right?
yeah, so let's go ahead and see that. So if we go back to this one, so if you go ahead with the configuration of WDS,
Okay. So let's let's go to the next. Integrated Active Directory
Yeah,
standalone configure server so that it's
yeah,
standalone or independently of Active Directory.
yeah.
But we need Active Directory for this, so we
So
would go for the first option.
you don't actually need Active Directory. You only need Active Directory if you're making it integrated with Active Directory. What do you think is the difference between the two, or what do you think? Because you can have WDS without Active Directory. You can.
Yes, you,
So that
you
is
cannot.
standalone server. So standalone server, it says configure the server so that it is standalone, operating independently of Active Directory. But if you want it to be integrated with Active Directory, you need to make it integrated with Active Directory, right? But
Yes.
what's the difference? What's the main difference between the two, between integrated with Active Directory and standalone?
Uh, I think it's maybe you want to do make it as a domain controller.
Yeah, you're close. But
Uh,
here's the main thing is that now WDS is a way to automatically deploy operating system, right?
yes.
But if you think about it, if you can automatically deploy operating system, why not automatically join it to the domain, right?
Uh,
So you see, so if you use standalone server, you can still automatically deploy operating system, but you can't automatically join it to the domain. But if you make it
uh,
to integrate with Active Directory, you can not only automatically deploy operating system, you can automatically join the system to the domain and even automatically put it in a particular OU that you want.
oh, okay. You can't do that with standalone because it's out of Active
Yeah,
Directory.
exactly. So that's the whole point of using Active. So if you want, you can make it Active Directory integrated. If you want, you can make it a standalone. But if you make it Active Directory integrated, that means you can do more automation in
Oh,
terms
okay.
of Active Directory. You can put it in a whole U directly. You can join it to the domain directly. You can give it a standard computer name directly.
Yeah, actually, I'm still trying to understand because if you remember, I asked you about the books and stuff, and I'm looking at to more lecture. I'm really weak at Active Directory domains and how this forest and sites works, and
Yeah,
so I'm kind of looking at it. I found somebody who has done 2008 server videos in Urdu language, which is like my native language, so I'm understanding a bit more.
yeah.
So I will
That's
come
nice.
back to it at some point.
Yeah,
But I got your point, what you're trying to say, because that's a good option, I think.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
we're going for standalone now.
Now, no, let's go for Active Directory integrated.
Okay.
So because we have Active Directory already on the other DC. So if you go next, so
Enter
now
the path to the remote installation
it's a
folder.
remote installation. Now look at what it says. It said the remote installation folder will contain the boot images, the install
Yes.
images, the pixie boot files. The pixie boot files is what would direct the client to say this is where to boot from or things like that. It says the Windows deployment services management tools. It says, but you need a place that you can store them. So
Yes.
they say it's advisable not to store them on your system partition. That is the partition that you've
Yeah.
installed
Yeah,
Windows
yeah,
on.
I've read about it. Yes.
But yeah, just for this purpose, let's go ahead and store it in this location. So if you go next,
Okay.
yeah, so it's just gonna warn you. So if you go ahead, yeah, it's gonna warn you and say, well,
Yeah.
yeah, that one. So now it says select one of the following options. So it's
Do not
asking you,
respond to client. Respond only to known client.
yeah.
Respond. This will obviously not going to respond to any client, but we need to respond. So respond only to known clients.
So
Respond to all client computers.
here's my question to you. What does it mean by known and unknown computers?
I think it's more of a security issue.
Yeah. So how
Let's
will
say
you?
if I want to
Yeah.
harm you, what I will do, I will connect my laptop and boot it on a Pixie boot,
Mhm.
and then obviously if you have so if you have turned on this option, I know. So what I will do, I will do a Pixie boot and then get an installation, and maybe if it's on an Active Directory domain service, I will be able to get some account on that probably into your network.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really low security risk because the only thing you can do is you can install your computer, but you install your computer, you still need an account to be able to log into the domain and all that. But here's the thing, is that the other question is how in the world will WDS know a computer that has no operating system on it?
Yeah.
How? What really used to know that computer?
Um, it will use the MAC address.
Good one. Very, very good one. The MAC address.
That's the only thing I can think of which it
Yes,
will
and
recognize.
that is good. That is correct. Because what you can do is we will see it after we configure it. You can go into WDS and specify a particular MAC address so WDS will know that computer ahead of time. Or there's
Yeah.
another way that you can use. Let me show you. I have a computer here that we have nothing, we've not installed anything on it, server 3. So let's connect to it and then I'll show you. So there are two things you can use to define known computers to WDS. So we have,
One thing I just never understood is with these so many images, like server 3, server 2.
yeah,
When I've seen the other lab manual for the Microsoft, it only uses three, maximum three VMs with like the host file.
it
But
depends.
then you got like so many.
No, it depends. So if you look at this one, these ones are the ones for 2410, right? So
Yeah.
2410 has okay, 2410 has actually server 4 is my own. I'm the one that created this one just for my own test. So
Oh,
2410 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8. So 2411 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2412 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
yeah. Like this could be the other Microsoft thing, but there's a Microsoft lab manual that I showed you with there are like 10, 20 labs or 15 labs,
Mhm.
and it only has like three VMs. It's
Yeah,
maximum I've seen three VMs on it.
yeah, it's possible. It's possible to do that, but when you actually want to practice, especially when you get to 2412, you saw it has 11 VMs, and you want to practice some advanced features, you need lots of virtual machines because you want different environments, different sites, different domains, you know.
And these virtual machines comes with pre-installed whatever you need in those virtual machines, right? And you just
Yeah,
need to follow the lab manual.
yes.
Okay. Once I will get it, then I will get it. Like once I will get the hard drive, and then I will see the PDFs and stuff.
Yes. So as long as one follows the instruction for deploying them, you'll be able
Okay.
to, yeah. So this one, so we have launch server 3 right here. So it's got nothing on it. So if I start this machine, so I want to see how do we recognize known or unknown computers. So this machine is starting up. Now look at this field here, GUID, globally unique
Great.
identifier.
Yes.
So that's one other way that you can use to identify known computer. So you can copy this GUID and tell it to WSOS, and WSOS will recognize this computer with its GUID. Or like you
Okay.
said,
And for next time and for future.
yeah, or like you said, you can use MAC address.
So how does it driving this GUID? Is it always going to be the same like a MAC address? Is it like a
Yeah,
hard?
it's also like a randomly generated globally unique identifier.
Okay.
Yeah. So okay, let's go. I'm not sure. It's not responding to my mouse again. Oh, is it
I think
responding? Is it responding to your mouse?
not really.
I think the computer is. I hope it's not. Oh, uh, let's go. Okay, let me. I'll disconnect and then reconnect again. Let's reconnect to it again. Yeah, I think you'll probably allow me eventually. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Should I close?
yeah, I wanted you to move the mouse, but is it allowing you to move it?
No, I can't.
Mm, yeah. Do.
I've closed the session.
Yeah. Um. So you still have the ID and the password, right?
Yes,
Oh,
I'm back in,
yeah. But it's still.
but I can't.
Yeah. I think it froze. I think that's what. Oh, okay. I think I know what could be happening. I think I know what could be happening. You know what I think could be happening?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's happening. The mouse. You remember that if you
Okay.
click in a virtual machine, if you click in a window, you
Yeah,
remember that?
yeah, yeah, I got
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
it's
It takes the control.
yeah. So that is what happened. Yeah, okay. So let's go on with this one. So now you're installing yeah. So what we want to do is respond to all computers known and unknown. So if you select that to respond to all computers known and unknown, and then if you click next, yeah, so it does the whole installation, sorry, the whole configuration. So now, first thing we do is that we install it, right? Then after we install
Yeah.
it, next thing we do is we configure it. So after we configure it, it's going to ask us to add images to it. So say, do you want to add images to it? No, if you remove the option to add images and then click finish, now it is configured, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So look at the option down there that says Active Directory pre-staged devices. If you expand that option,
Okay.
if you click on it, right click on it, and click Add Device. So this is where you can specify known computers or computers that WDS knows. If you want to say respond to only known computers, this is where you can specify the device.
Okay.
So you can specify a device name. So let's go through a test. Maybe call it test or something. Yep, device ID. If you want to put in a particular, or if you click next, it still happens. Because yeah. So the name provided is not a properly formed account name. So yeah, we can just call it test. Yeah, let's go next. Yeah. So can you see? So that's what I was looking for. So the specified device ID is invalid. The device ID must be a what? A GUID, MAC address, or a DUID. So did you see? So that's where you can use. That's what you can use to specify known computers. So
What is DUID?
I think it's something similar to GUID.
Okay.
I'm not sure really, but I'm sure it's something similar. If we go
It's the
to
cousin of GUID.
yeah. DUID. No, not the okay, DUID. No, it says driving under the influence of drugs. No, thank you very much. So we're not looking for driving.
DHCP version 6 DUID Windows.
GHCP unique identifier. So that's the
DHCP unique identifier.
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm sure it's a way to uniquely identify a device.
I will
So
read about it on my own time.
yeah.
Don't worry.
So that's one way that we can use to specify and say these are the computers that we know of. So now the first thing we need to do is to add a boot image that the client computer can boot from. So if you go ahead and add a boot image
Where was it? Is it in the
and D drive, so if you go on the computer there, so you see
uh,
D drive.
D drive? Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, your sources.
yeah,
Boot. Then.
yeah. So let's add that. Yeah, so you just give it the name of yeah, that's okay. Yeah. So that way, so this is the image that the computer will use to boot. And again, where will the computer load this image to?
It will load into the memory.
Exactly. So it loads this. So this one is not stored in the hard disk at all. The computer loads it directly into its memory and runs it directly from its memory.
Yes.
So it's really light. It's Windows, but they've taken away all the features and it's just basically just basic Windows, just something that the computer can use to boot so that it can connect to the WSO server. So yeah, we finished there. So now we need to add an install image. So let's add one.
One thing, create an image group
Yeah.
named
So
image group
now it's like
one.
you have to have an image group before you have an install image. So let's just create an image group. Let's call it server 2012 because we're installing server 2012 image server 2012. Yep. And then we can clear. And then will specify
One
what
thing I
will
was
be.
thinking about is why do we like, if you see this folder, there are like so many other files as well,
Yep,
but when it comes to installation, we only need two files, which is boot vim and install vim.
yep,
So why there are like so many folders? You see all these folders and the other folders.
yep. Because this one, the install.wim is your main, is the, yeah, sorry, carry on. So let's just select one of them. Let's select just standard,
Standard, yeah.
so we can remove the others. Mm,
There was one option as well. Use the default name and skip info each is
yeah,
selected.
that's
Okay.
okay. So it's just like, yeah, carry on using the name. Yeah, so this one will take a while. So the question you asked about, oh, okay, how come in this folder, how come we'll have, lots of files,
This what's the
but
point of having all these when you got only doing two files
yeah,
to
because
do the same job?
all these, like for example, I know the SXS contains the roles and the features. So
Yeah.
that is just like the basic Windows image itself, but the roles and the features are inside this SXS folder. So
Oh, okay.
they also contain different components of
Okay.
Windows. So they
But those Vim file is going to give you the basic
yeah, just the base
version.
image, yeah, just the base image or the base install. So after it does the base install, then for example, Windows will now copy. If you install standard, it's going to copy this whole SXS folder into your computer so that you can install the different roles and features.
So let's say if, we install on a virtual machine now, and if you ask me to install a feature
Hmm.
on that new machine that we are what that we will going to set up now.
Yeah.
So how do I access this SSX
Because
folder
it will
from that
copy
machine?
it into Windows. It will copy it inside Windows. So if you
So
bring up
that's
any, yeah, for
okay.
example, on this computer now, if I go bring up this this computer, if I go under the C drive,
Yeah.
on the Windows, mm, mm, so you see this folder here called WinSXX.
Yes.
So that's where it copies all those Windows roles and features files. It copies them from the SXX folder and copies them into this folder.
So is that WDS going to do for you? Because the only see I see you telling WDS is that you are giving him boot.vim and then you are giving him install.vim.
We're
You're not
giving
telling him
him
about the SSX folder.
we're giving him install.wim. But when he starts the install.wim, you notice
Yes.
that the first thing, what is the first stage that usually goes through? It will say copying files, if you remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it copies some files to your hard drive
Yes.
from the CD itself.
Yeah.
Oh, I get the question that you're asking. I get the question you're
Let's say I give
yeah.
you boot.vim and install.vim in a USB and I'd give you nothing
And
else.
then basically what you're saying is that okay, you have boot.wim, you have install.wim, but let's say after I've even copied boot.wim and install.wim,
Yes.
I take away the CD.
Yeah, or I just give you in a USB file,
Yeah,
USB, and I ask you to install it
yeah,
without any SSX folder.
yeah. That's a good question. That's a really good question. So my thoughts would be, does that mean install.wim also contains everything itself? So
If
that
it
would be
does, then what's the point of having all these SSX folder?
yeah. Um, let's
I think it
see.
it unwraps itself. It can
It
contain a
could
lot
be.
of
It
basic
could be.
drivers and features.
Yeah. Content of inst no instant noodles. Install.wim. So what are the contents? It says we can extract it using the Windows using ImageX. Oh, oh. Somebody's saying we could use 7-zip. So it's something that we can actually investigate. So that's a good one to investigate. To look for a way to mount it and then see what the content is inside that folder. So that's a good one. So I get the question that you're asking.
Okay.
Yeah, I get the question you're asking. Okay, so let's see if that's finished installing. So if we go back to learn server one. So as it finished, yeah, it's a lot of file.
Yet I might need some help from you setting up these files once I get the
Yeah,
hard
no,
drive from you.
no problem. It's all right.
Whenever you have time, maybe like we can sit down for 10, 20 minutes,
Yeah,
give you access to my machine.
yeah.
The one thing I'm unable to install my network card to give you the internet access on my Windows 2012.
Hmm.
Should I
Okay.
install Windows 8? Is that going to be enough? Because we got Hyper-V over there, so
Um,
Windows 8.1, is that going to be enough?
and no, Windows Server 2012 will be the best. Actually, Windows the one that I have, because it's 2012 version. What Microsoft said is that you should use
The
Windows
host should be 2012, right?
2008, actually 2008 out to.
Oh, okay.
But I think we can use 2012, but we need to make some manual adjustment
Oh, okay.
because the lab itself is designed for server 2008 out to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. So now we have a boot, and then we have a pen. We have this one. So here's the thing. If we go under server one here and we go under properties, we have some
Yeah.
options there. One of the option here is client naming policy under ADDS. So this is part of the integration with Active Directory. So what we
Yes.
can actually do here is automatically give our computer names.
Yes.
So do you know like what the naming formats are? What do they mean?
I think it's these are some there's a way like 61 stand for percentage, 61 stand for I can't explain it, but it's an automated way of
Yeah. So it's really actually
naming.
simple. There's like just a couple of them. If you use percentage uh first, what that means is that's the first name of the user that you want.
Yeah.
If you use percentage 5 and then put first, what that means is I want the first 5 digits of the user's first name.
Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
the one that we saw where they say percentage 61
61.
and then they said username, what that means is that I want only the first 61 characters of the username.
Is that going to be like such a long username?
So it depends. So if it's not as long as 61, it won't use it. But it says I can allow up to a maximum of 61. That's what they mean. You get it, right?
Oh, okay.
So that is
Yes.
so you can say percentage last, that will be the user's last name. Or
Okay.
if
Got
you
it.
say percentage 7 last, what that means is the first 7 digits of the user's last name.
But last has to be like this, or if I write it like this, is that acceptable?
Yeah, I think that should be okay too. I'm
Okay.
I'm, I'm not sure, but I think it's not case sensitive.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But
So
it has to be like in proper first or last. You should write it.
yeah. Or another thing that we can do is we can use something like um you saw something like a digit like a 07, right? Or maybe zero
Yeah.
six, and then they put the ladder, right? This one.
Yes.
So the ladder means digits.
Yes.
This six means
First
um
six digits.
the digit. So what this means is this. So let's say if I say 2, that means maximum of 2 digits. So what number can you get to maximum of 2 digits? You can only get to 99, right?
Yes.
Before it becomes 3 digits.
Yes.
So that means put a 0 in front of it, maximum of 2 digits. So it will start from a zero
Number
one,
10 Zuhaib is
from a
something like that.
zero one all the way to 99.
Okay, so that could be my 01 will be my login name, right?
So yeah, so it no, so it won't be login. So this one won't have anything to do with name. This one will just be number. This is just number.
Okay.
So actually, like if you go on there, to go and go client naming policy WDS. Yeah, so you get, yeah, so here we go. The ADDS tab. Yeah, and then you can see the thing we were talking about. You can see first name, right? The
Yeah.
user's first name. You can limit the length of the first name by adding a numerical value between percent and first. For example, percent five first will limit the first name to 5 characters,
Yes.
or percent five last, or percent five username, or percent MAC address. So
Right.
percent zero hen. So it says to include zero padding in the incremental number, type a zero as shown. N starts for digits. So a three-digit number in the range from 001 to 999.
Okay.
So that I'm not sure if you got that, but you get it as well. Yeah, the more you practice, the more you get it. So
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
So basically, I can go here and say I want this computer to be called branch server percent 02 ladder. So what that will mean is that it will start from branch server 01 all the way to branch server 99.
Yes.
So it will only use two digits, but then it will put zero in front of it.
Okay, the suffix. Got it.
Yeah. But then the other question I want to ask you is, if I say percent first, where will it get the username to use? For what does it mean by first? When you're building a computer, not creating a user account. So how come where will you get the first name to use for this one?
I think it's going to pick up from MAC address maybe.
No, actually, because when you're doing WDS, it gets to a point that it will ask you to enter a username and a password. So any username and password that you enter there is what it will use. Because
Okay.
WDS is designed for users to be able to build their computers. So that you as an
Okay.
administrator can tell a user, start up your computer, press F12, and you can build your computer by yourself. But for them to be able
Oh,
to do that, you have to give them access to join computer to the domain if you want them to join things to the domain. So for example, under Active Directory pre-stage devices that we talked about, I can go hard device and go maybe let's call it long client 4. Let's call this 0000.1111.2222.3333 and then go next. Okay, because it has to be in a particular format. You know the way MAC addresses are.
yeah.
So sometimes Windows is sensitive about the formats. You can't just put them in. And there was one that I was doing today. Okay, the upgrade I was doing today, it wants me to put it in this format, so that's why I was putting
Okay.
I was putting that format. So let's try this format. If not, we may need to use another format. Yeah, it doesn't like that format too. So there's another format that has dash. So I think, yeah, I think we'll probably end very soon because I can feel that you're tired and you're going to work tomorrow.
Yeah, I have to
Yeah,
go to work tomorrow, but
yeah,
if you want to continue, like we can finish it because I can't come in tomorrow.
yeah.
Uh,
So what format is a particular format that it's looking for? Um, so it's looking for, I'm not sure. Which other format do we have? Yeah, so it's looking for a particular format. So the one I wanted to show is to show that after you had the device here, what we can do is we can add a username and a password. We can add a user that can add this computer to the domain.
Okay.
So that way we're delegating permission to the user to add computer to the domain. So it will use that username and it will use that user's username under this tab.
But we can do this whole process as well after the installation, right? We can get that machine, join a domain, and make user
Yeah,
accounts on
but
it.
then it's not going to be automatic, it's going to be manual.
Yeah, but we
Someone needs
can't
to
do
go
that
to the
from system.
machine and then log into the machine and then click join domain and then enter an
Yeah,
administrator credential and all that.
yeah, I got it.
So
Okay, cool.
so under boot is like where you specify like the Pixie boot settings. So Pixie boot is, do you want it to, that maybe if the machine is a 32-bit machine, you want it to use a particular boot image. So you can have multiple boot image and specify if it's a 64-bit machine, use this boot image. If it's a 32-bit machine, use this boot image.
Okay.
Then yeah, okay. So here's another option. Look at this option, DHCP. Remember we
Do not
said
listen
something
to this.
about if you have DHCP and WDS on the same server, will there not be a
Yes,
conflict? So this is
yes.
where you resolve the conflict. Look at this.
You can click these options.
It says if DHCP is running on this server, check both of the following checkboxes and use DHCP tools to appropriate PXE options to all DHCP and DHCP scopes. In other words, if DHCP is on this machine, you're right, there's a conflict. Both of them are listening on port 67.
Yes,
Only one service can listen on one port. So you have to come and tell WDS, don't try to listen on DHCP port because DHCP is already on the server.
yes,
And then you can say configure DHCP options to indicate that this server is also a PXE server. So what
yes,
that means is that you have to go into DHCP and now use, so remember that we talked about if you use this situation, what will happen is this packet will go here, right?
yes,
But this one will only return an IP address and nothing else, nothing more.
yes, yes,
This packet will go here and this one will return option 60, right? And
yes,
67 another. So now you now have to go to DHCP. If you have DHCP and WDS on the same server, you now have to block WDS from listening on port 67 and
yes.
now use DHCP to configure option 60 and 67. But there's a disadvantage to that. What disadvantage do you think there can be?
For configuring them separately.
Yeah, for configuring them on the same server. And then you have to go to use DHCP to specify.
I think the main advantage is making it more efficient. Like if you see that your machine is not really busy, because all the time you're not handing over DHCP.
Yeah,
Like
so actually it's a disadvantage, not more of an advantage. It's a disadvantage because if you look at this, I can specify multiple boot images, right? So that if the
yes,
machine is 32 bit, I can say use this one. So the machine will actually negotiate with WDS and say, oh, I'm 32 bit. Can I have this image? But if I now have everything on the same box, DHCP will only allow me to configure one option. So I can
okay,
only specify one that you can use. You
okay.
get the point? So actually, Microsoft does not recommend putting them on the same box and then using DHCP to configure WDS options. Microsoft doesn't recommend it at all because the client has no option to negotiate with the server.
So DHCP allow like what? I didn't quite catch it. Like
So,
what you're
so
saying.
DHCP will allow you can only give one option. For example,
What option?
like for example here, you can give multiple boot images, right?
Yes,
In this one, and you can specify that use this boot image based on architecture. So if
yes,
the machine is 32-bit, it can actually negotiate with WDS and say, oh, I'm 32-bit. I'm sorry, I can't use that 64-bit image. Give me this image. You can negotiate and all that.
yes.
It can negotiate different options with WDS. But if you use DHCP to specify, it can't negotiate because DHCP is giving it, this is an option. That's it.
So
And that,
DHCP decides the which image it's going to give you, right?
yes. So
That's what you
DHCP,
mean.
yeah, so DHCP specifies the location that it boots from the option 67. So if I go, yeah,
Okay.
So DHCP specify that. If I go here under DNS and I go bring up my DHCP
Yes.
server here, so DHCP will just basically specify the boot file name. So if I go to scope options, just to so we're just rushing a bit here. But yeah, we'll always get time to go over it somewhere, don't worry. Scope options. So if I go configure options and I scroll down to option 67, 67 boot file name, right? So
Yes.
DHCP says I want to specify a boot file name. So if I specify a boot file name, whereas with WDS, there can be multiple, right? And the client
Yes.
can negotiate with the server that this
Yes.
is the best one for me. But with DHCP, you can only specify one, and that's it. There's no
So what
negotiation.
will you give in the string value?
What?
What
So
will you going to give in the
So
string
you
value?
basically specify the location of the boot file name, like maybe
Boot file,
it
okay,
is
which was in
located
the
under maybe remote
C remote C
control.
remote
Yeah,
remote file.
yeah. So you have to specify that. So you can only say, okay, this is the location. That's it. Bye bye.
Okay.
You can,
Okay,
yeah.
got it.
So there's no negotiation. So there's yeah. That's why it's more of like
Yeah,
a
I
boot
didn't
file name.
know this thing, but it's a good point.
Yeah. So okay. So now we have this one. So the other thing about this one is actually when we just finish discussing these properties, I think we can finish for today. So
Okay.
TFTP. So before we go to TFTP, let's talk about multicast. So multicast is where you can specify the addresses that it listens to, like you said. Actually, let's create a multicast transmission. So if you go ahead and create a multicast transmission for the install image that we have. Yeah. Yeah. So now it wants you to specify the image group and then specify the image. So if you have multiple images, you can specify different multicast transmission. So autocast is like, do you want me to immediately when the client contacts me, I start broadcasting the image to, sorry, I start sending the image to them. Or
Okay.
scheduled cast will mean I can say scheduled cast and say start when there are 10 clients that are requesting for the image. So in other words, so when client one comes and says, "Oh, I need this install image," it will say, "Hold on, you are the only one that wants it." So
Yeah,
when
I got
two,
your point. Like
yeah,
you need at least two, three to be more efficient so
yeah,
that you don't have to.
yeah. So
Okay.
it's like once you get to 10, once you get to 10, it will start sending the image to them.
Yes.
Or you
Yes.
can say, I want you to start at a particular time. So if I
Yeah,
select
basically you won't start the class until 10 students are here
yeah,
for hangout sort of thing. And
exactly.
then
But then the thing is, if you select these two together, it's not going to use a combination of the two. It is any one of them that meets the
okay, whichever
requirement
comes
first.
first.
Exactly. So if it is 10 users that comes first, or if it is the time that comes first, that's when it's going to start transmitting.
Okay, cool, got
Yeah.
it.
But if you don't select any one of them, what will happen in that situation, if you don't select any one of them, is that, I'm sorry, is that it won't broadcast anything except you manually go in to say start broadcasting. Nothing will be broadcasted.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's like the whole point and all that. So I'm not sure. I think we should. Do you think we should stop here for today, right?
Yeah, I'm fine if you want to continue, but I think if you want
No, I think we should
to.
pause here for today. Um,
Okay.
yeah, because yeah. So what we'll do is that we at least we cover WDS to an extent. I mean, at least we have a little bit more understanding regarding WDS.
Can you tell me before, like very quickly, that what I should be reading further? I have been seeing the CBT Nuggets videos, so they
Yeah,
pretty much explain WDS like 2 hours is quite long.
yeah,
Obviously, as soon as I get the labs, then I'll start practicing.
yeah.
But is there any particular thing that you want me to study in my own time and
No,
look at it?
I'll say to me, like it depends on the individual. Like I'll tell you my own method or what works for me. What works for me is like normally when I hear like explanations like this,
Yes.
then I go back and watch the CBT Nugget and Train Signal videos again. Because now when I watch it again, I understand more what they
Okay.
are saying. Because now I have some more understanding. So now when I watch
Okay.
those videos again, there are many things that they said that I didn't understand before. So now when they are talking about it, I'm like, yeah, I understand what you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a good thing that maybe after doing like hangout and something like that, just go back and watch whatever video you use, go back and watch them again. You find out that you understand those videos more.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I will like start doing the labs as well. I think we'll be able to learn more by doing the labs,
Yeah.
probably following that
Yeah.
manual.
Yeah.
Uh, what is the difference between this 2410C and B
Yeah,
and
because this
D?
one is
Between,
2412, the other one is 2412, sorry, 2012, the other one is 2012 out to
so which one is R2? Is it D or the
the D1.
CB?
I think the C and the D1 is out to.
Okay, so if I do any one of these, they should be equal, right? Like I shouldn't have to do both of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's a few, no, well, not really a lot. There's quite a few new features in 2012 out to that because this one is 2012 that you may not find on 2012. But
So
each
the
time,
ones you are sending me, I can do the R2 ones, right, on that.
no, just the 2012 ones. It's this exact same one that I have, so it's just 2012.
Just 2012,
Yeah.
I see.
So
Okay.
the R2 one, I mean, it's easy. All you just need to do is upgrade this server to R2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, David. Thank you so much for your help and motivation, really. I really appreciate it.
No
Hopefully.
problems. Yeah, no problem. So at some point, I'm not sure. It depends because yeah, I have to be concerned about my wife and all that, and give her a time, make sure that she has attention and all that. Yeah, because I was
Yeah.
thinking at some point that maybe we can book like times for doing the labs because a few people have been saying I'm interested in doing the lab together as a group where we go through where we do nothing but everybody just share their
How are
screen.
you going to find the time, man? I mean, like, you're already so busy, and then you're running these two hangouts, and
Yeah, it is. It is. I understand. Yeah. So yeah,
I
good
mean,
one. So good one.
but yeah, thank you so much. And let's meet up in another hangout.
Yeah.
I won't be coming next for this hangout, but maybe I'll definitely try to catch up on 411 hangout. I don't want to miss anything.
Yeah. No problems. Absolutely. No problems, man.
Thank you so much. Goodbye,
Yeah.
David.
No
Good
problem, bro.
night.
See you later. Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye bye.